He is the dumbest black man on planet Earth, but he always gets stuff right once in a while. It's like a broken clock. He right twice a day.
One of the reasons Barack Obama was made president is so he could normalize the LGBTQ agenda in the black community. Think about it. If George Bush tried to push homosexuality in the black community, we would have rejected him.
Of course.
If Donald Trump tried to push homosexuality in the black community, we would have rejected him.
Of course.
You could only normalize that through a blackface.
Through a black man.
But wait, there's more.
This whole country was built on race. Off the backs of black people enslaved. Y'all used to eat us.
Trust that black folks will collect our own people when they're out of pocket.
This video is brought to you by Synergy Life, brought to you by Synergy Life. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no company in America right now that's doing what we're doing. We have formulated what we call complete energy. That means that you have energy in the daytime. Also, you have good sleep, good rest. Therefore, you wake up with energy. Nobody's doing it. That's why I developed it. And also, if you know anything about the Shin, which is the 21st letter of the Hebrew language, it has a significance that you probably want to look into. All right. So we love the Lord. I want to, show respect to the Lord in everything that I do. And that's why I wanted to name my product Synergy. So if you know anything about the Shin, you know what I'm talking about. Also, we have T-Force, which is sold out, but make sure you click here and go to notify me when made available. And therefore, we'll notify you as soon as it's back in stock. We'll try to brief you as well because I know that it should be back in stock soon. We'll let you know on the live stream or in the advertisement, and you'll be able to see. Also, Synergy Drink is available right now for pre-order. So all you got to do is go and click on it and pre-order it today. It should be available early March. We'll have it to you, and it will change your life. Make sure you go to synergylife.com, synergylife.com. Let's go to Umar Johnson. He is the dumbest black man on planet Earth, but he always gets stuff right once in a while. It's like a broken clock. He right twice a day. So he gonna get some stuff right. He's the most racist, ignorant, but what he said right here, because he's a racist, his priority is black, 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 black. So sometimes when it comes to certain black issues, sometimes he get it. And that's the only reason why I'm playing this clip. I would love to dog him out on another video, but this one he actually made a little bit of sense. And when he talked about Barack Obama, some of y'all is Lord and Savior. Not none of y'all watching me, your cousin them. Roll the clip.
One of the reasons Barack Obama was made president is so he could normalize the LGBTQ agenda in the black community. Think about it. If George Bush tried to push homosexuality in the black community, we would have rejected him.
Of course.
If Donald Trump tried to push homosexuality in the black community, we would have rejected him.
Of course.
You could only normalize that through a blackface.
Through a black man.
Obama was made president to make it normal. When Barack Obama became president, homosexuality was not a mainstream issue, nor was it accepted as a mainstream alternative to the traditional family.
I gotta look at
By
the
the time he left office in 2008, they were completely running everything.
Was
and
that
if
the
you
year?
even disagreed with, I'm gonna give you an example.
It is.
I do
You
a
might
lot
be
of
right.
graduation speeches, right? At the June.
Okay.
Elementary school, middle school, high school. I normally do about 20 graduation speeches a season.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
When Barack Obama was president, I might have did 5. It dropped significantly. Schools who I normally did their commencement, they was calling me up, Dr. Umar, we can't have you speak this year. Why? The LGBTQ say you don't agree with them. You can't speak. I said, but this is a graduation speech. This ain't politics. This is motivation. Get ready for the rest of your life.
Right.
What does LGBT got to do with my 10-minute speech motivating these 12th graders to make sure you do well in college?
Right.
Well, we have LGBT teachers and they're saying you're insensitive and you're homophobic. So I saw how not agreeing with the lifestyle could limit your opportunities in life. You had people getting fired from jobs, not for pushing hate, because I don't agree with hate.
Right.
I don't agree with the lifestyle.
Right.
But I don't want to harm for any human, no matter what their situation is.
That's the way to do it.
But the way that they did it was the LGBTQ said, to disagree with me is to hate me. They created a narrative that if you disagree, you support violence against me.
Right.
You don't want us to work. You want us to be shot, killed, made.
Yeah.
We never said that.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
We just said we don't agree with the lifestyle.
Right.
But they turned it into a whole campaign against anybody who disagreed with it. And that's another reason why a lot of people didn't vote for Kamala Harris, black men, because they got tired of the effeminization. And then they took it to Africa. Obama started it. He went to Africa. He went to Liberia. He went to Rwanda. couple other places. He said, if you don't legalize gay marriage, we cutting off your aid. Now, mind you, this is the oldest civilization on earth.
Yeah, I know you
How you
know.
going to go to the oldest people in the world and say, if you don't legalize same-sex marriage, we're going to cut your aid off? So that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, because you don't go to Africa to help. You go to force this?
He did that for her?
Yes, he did. And then Kamala Harris did it. She did
All
it.
right. So I think he said enough. Y'all heard a little bit of what he said. But I believe that what he said is pretty accurate. And nobody's talking about this. The degradation of the black community is instigated with these pillars. Getting somebody in that's your color folk, not somebody that agree with you, but that look like you, and pushing an agenda on the back of your ancestors and on the back of the civil rights movement. The reason why I'm reacting to this is not traditionally what I do on my show, but I just have to react to ignorant black people, because I just hate that we get such a bad association. Most people think black people are stupid, and because a lot of them are stupid. Like this man, this guy say he's a teacher. This is the stuff that black people are spewing to other young black people and other people that they claim that they're teaching. Is this every black man? No. Is this majority of black men? Yes. Don't play yourself. Most black men are silly like this guy. But the most racist people in America are black people. Hands down. If you don't believe me, watch the clip.
I've had more than one white person ask me, hey, Tony, how do I call out a black person when they say something racist? Me, I'm a teacher, so I'm happy to answer that question. Ready? You don't. I know a lot of y'all immediately don't like that answer, but stick with me anyway. I get very suspicious when white people ask about how to correct black people about racial issues. The reason for that is that most of y'all don't even call out the white people in your own house, who you go to work with, who are in your extended family. If you don't have the courage to call out people in your own community, what gives you the right to call out people in other communities? There are literally millions of white people.
Case in point. Then I would love to hear you tell black people that they can't say nothing about white people when they won't call out stuff in their own community. I want you to put this in perspective. Who's the biggest threat to black people in America? Other black people. Who's teaching these black kids at these schools that are failing? Black people. When they complain about injustices in the inner city communities, the chief is black, the city council members are black. Black people are hurting each other. But you steady talking about white folks. White people can't say nothing. Now, if a person cutting up, I don't care what color they are, you call them on the carpet for what they're doing. But yet, in trying to make a video bashing white people, you're showing the bias that you have against white people, assuming that white people don't call their own people out. Well, y'all, black people don't call each other out either, because you ain't. I go on his social media, you ain't never gonna see him say nothing bad about a black man. I guarantee you, roll it.
People who need correction about racial issues, what's your motivation for wanting to call out black people? There's a weird liberal obsession with wanting to put black folks in their place that needs to be examined, y'all. Spoilers. Yep, that too comes from unexamined white supremacy, even among liberal, progressives, leftists, etc. Can you imagine me, as a man who strives to be a feminist, popping up in the comments of a woman teaching about misogyny, fixing my typing fingers to ask, but what about women who are supporting the patriarchy? How can I, as a man, call them out? I imagine that many of the women in those comments would tell me to f*** off, and rightfully so, because I have so many men that I need to be having those conversations with instead. Why would I have the audacity to think that I have the authority to address women on that particular issue? I should instead trust that women will address problematic women, and I should stay in my own lane. And that's my message to white folks. Trust that black folks will collect our own people when they're out of pocket. There's too much work that y'all need to do in your own communities about racism for you to also split time trying to manage ours. And one more thing, a 2022 study from the Public Religion Research Institute indicated that 2/3 of white people have zero non-white friends. Zero. So most of y'all don't even know any black people, making it even more wild that you would consider yourself to have the authority to lecture black people about race. This has been my TED Talk. Hope it helps. Comment freedom, and I'll DM you the link to register for the class I'm hosting with the brilliant Tina Strawn about how to successfully move out of the U.S. for anybody who is currently considering doing so. You don't have to stay here in fear and uncertainty. There can be thriving abroad, and we'll give you all the keys on how we are currently doing this.
Grifting.
Check it out, y'all. Woo!
That's good.
Hope to see you there. Comment freedom.
His whole grift is to teach you how to leave America. These people silly. Most white people don't even know black people. Most black people don't know white people. I don't know if you guys just woke up yesterday, but most people live around the people, like most people live around the same race. So when I was growing up in the inner city, I grew up around black people. Maybe it was one teacher that was white, but most people were black. We didn't really hang around white people like that. We didn't eat at white people's dinner table or nothing like that when I was growing up. And it's the same thing with white people. A lot of white people don't know black people. So therefore, if something happens in the black community or the white community, the Asian community, a rational human being should be able to call them on the carpet. And it shouldn't be, well, you don't call your own people out, so you don't. No, when you see the bull crap, you see the bull crap. And unfortunately, I personally believe if anybody is going to say that people don't call their own people out, it's black people don't call their own people out. Because George Floyd and them are heroes and everything else when they get killed by a cop. Didn't say nothing about a George Floyd when he was robbing people. Said nothing about his drug dealer who was next to George Floyd in the car when he was selling George Floyd the drugs. Y'all ain't say nothing about the killing and stealing and dealing that go on in the community, more so in the black community than anywhere else in the entire country. Won't say a thing, won't make a shirt, won't do a TED talk, won't do an activist protest, won't do nothing. Today, statistically, black people are getting shot right now in Chicago. Somebody getting shot today. They have over 600 murders in 1 year. That's almost 2 people a day. Somebody finna get shot today. And that guy ain't never gonna talk about it because he don't give a flying flip. He'd rather lecture white people. Have the audacity to talk about white people and talk about America. I don't get it, man. America is such a beautiful country. America affords so many opportunities. We're not living 100 years ago. It's over. All of that BS about race and it's over. If you apply yourself, you'll do well in life. It is what it is. I don't believe in white privilege. I don't believe in no privilege but Christ privilege. If you claim to be a Christian, there ain't no door that the white man can open or close that don't have the stamp of approval by the Lord. And if you don't believe that, then you ain't if you don't believe what I just said, you ain't a Christian.
The next day.
I'm going to read this comment. Don't go to it. Keep this guy on the screen right here. Keep it right here. Somebody super chatted me $5 and said, black Americans endured 400 years of slavery. First of all, it wasn't 400 years. Second of all, not every black person was a slave. Okay. Endured 100 years of Jim Crow. Jim Crow was Jim Crow South. Not every black person was involved in Jim Crow or was subjugated to Jim Crow. So not every black person did 100 years of Jim Crow. So that's a lie. That's not historically accurate. And also in the Jim Crow South, not every black person was subject to Jim Crow or had negative effects with Jim Crow. They did their own thing and they weren't worried about white people. They had their own bus line, they had their own restaurants, they had their own schools, and they weren't worried about white people. So although there was segregation, black people still had their own stuff. And during 55 years of segregation, which also segregation wasn't always a negative thing. It wasn't always a negative thing because you can go right now and people are still segregated today. People are still segregated today. Go to Atlanta. There's a black area and then there's a white area. Go to Louisiana. There's so many successful black people. I mean, just it's crazy that we don't even talk about our successful black folks. We only talk about people who are slaves and all the negative. There's so many black people that have done so many great things over the years. So many black people right now. But black people don't even support black people. They trying to get on a white job instead of black people hiring their own people. They not gonna hire you. Black people ain't own nothing. They don't own nothing. They can't hire you on nothing. They can't really give you, and then they let it go ghetto. Every time they do so, they let it go ghetto. I ain't never seen a black establishment. I have not. Now I don't live in Atlanta. I don't live in high black areas. I grew up in Fort Worth, but I ain't never seen an all black establishment that was professional. That was professional straight through and through. Meaning that you go in there, they got great service, they're professional, they talk to you like you got sense. Now, there are some that's out there. I ain't never been to one. Every one I go to, they ghettofied. You got people out there sagging their pants, acting a fool. They don't know how to do customer service. You like, man, come on. I remember we were at a hotel, me and my brother. We were at a hotel, nice hotel. Black girl is the hostess, and it was a small, so she had to be the hostess and, take your service. Super ghetto, man. What y'all want? I don't care where you sit. I'm like, come on, man. Like, you representing us in here, and you silly. You got a good job. Why can't you just say you ain't looked at no videos or nothing how to act? Y'all sit wherever y'all want to sit. What y'all want? All these white people in here, and this the example of us is this fool. Anyway, let's play this clip.
Nothing pisses me off more than seeing a white person.
Open my screen so I can see it. Okay, you ready?
Nothing pisses me off more than seeing a white person get online talking about, just imagine if it was an all-white Super Bowl, how outraged it would be. I ain't gotta imagine. We seen it already. We seen it plenty of times. TV shows, movies, concerts. We seen it. Why does everything have to be about race? We're never gonna move. This whole country was built on race. Off the backs of black people as slaves. Y'all used to eat us. Y'all ate us. Made furniture out of our hair and shit. It's never not gonna be about race. It ain't no kumbaya. Black people were massacred in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. 100 years ago. That was y'all grandparents. It was so long ago. 100 years ago. Fred Hampton was assassinated in 69 at 21 years old because he was getting too powerful. FBI, the government. It is so aggravating because y'all don't even want to teach your kids the proper history. You don't want your kids learning how much of a monster y'all were, your ancestors were, to everybody, especially black people. You don't want to talk about they're going to grow up feeling shame. They should. As a white person, you should feel shamed about what your ancestors done to people. That's American history.
And this right here, why black people ain't never gonna be nothing as a group. Now, individual black people are, I'm good. A lot of other people I know good. But put his face on the screen. I want people to see his face. This is why black people can never get anywhere. It's 2025 and this man still talking stupid like this. Tulsa massacre. If you look up the Tulsa, Oklahoma race war, it was never called a massacre until more recently because they wanted to create it into a massacre. What happened was there was a conflict between white and black people lost. That's what happened. If you go look up any research of what they call now the Tulsa massacre, it was a conflict that happened between a white person and a black person on an elevator. Stuff got out of hand. The first shots that rang out were black people shooting and killing white people. And then white people came from all over and it was an all-out war and black people lost. 1921. 1925, Tulsa, Oklahoma was built back in its fullness and completion. Completely built back. They try to act like Tulsa, Oklahoma they just killed all these black people because they were rich. No, it was a conflict that happened. It was called a race riot, and black people and white people had a conflict, and black people lost. But they were able to build it back, and Tulsa, Oklahoma was functional. Then you go, y'all people did this. Well, that was in Oklahoma. Every white person lived in Oklahoma? What are you talking about, bro? Every white person have to be associated with what some white people did. Do you really want to play that game? What about all them thugs in the inner city right now, which is the leading cause of death for young men my age? They kill more people. More black men kill other black men in a 6-month period than the entire history of lynching in American history. The entire legacy of lynching in 68 years of lynching, more black men die in 6 months at the hand of a black man than when white people were lynching black people. And black people weren't the only ones getting lynched. About 3,500 black people on record were lynched. About 20-some hundred or 1,200 or 2,100 or something white people were lynched. I got to look at the numbers. It was obviously more black people than whites, but white people got lynched too. Oh yeah, just the black people getting lynched. Man, white people getting lynched too. Lynching was a thing. Unfortunately, more black people got lynched. And obviously because of the race conflict. But America wasn't built on race. Black people wasn't even here at first. White people came over here. Native Americans were the first slaves. And then because of cheap labor, and they couldn't hold the Native Americans because they spoke a common language, they knew the terrain. First of all, when white people first came over here, white people were slaves, but they couldn't work in the conditions. They weren't built like that. The climate was different. So they tried to get the natives to do it. The natives were too witty. They would escape. They had a language. They would conquer, take over. They do all this stuff. They were resourceful. Black people came from another continent. So they came over here, and at first, black people were a problem. Then they start realizing that you got to separate them so they can't speak the language and all this other stuff. It wasn't about being black because black people own slaves too. Native people own slaves too. And the Juneteenth thing that they always talk about, Juneteenth wasn't Juneteenth. Galveston wasn't when the first black people were released. It was a year later by the Choctaw Indian. They were the last ones to release their slaves. But dummies like this and other black folks that ain't never gonna be nothing in life, they don't want to admit that Native Americans own slaves and black people own slaves. What are y'all talking about? It is about race. No, you making it about race. White people ain't worried about you. This is one thing I wish black people would understand. I've been around black people. I've been around white people. White people ain't worried about you. These white people out here, they walking their dogs. They thinking about their 401k. They thinking about how I don't know what they think. This is a nice neighborhood, so they ain't thinking about how they going to get the next meal, but they probably thinking about investments. They thinking about their kids' graduation. They thinking about private school. They walking their dogs because this weather is good out there. They walking their dog. They walking up the street, staying healthy. eating healthy. They living way longer than black people. Ain't no drive-bys, ain't no crime. White people just shuffling. They ain't thought about you one time. They ain't thought about black people. They don't have to. And to be honest, they don't care. Black people still thinking about race. White people ain't really thinking about it like black people are. There are some racist white people out there. I know they are. Man, white people see me driving down the road, they waving, and every time, ain't not one white person I wave that ain't waved back at me. Hey. I'm driving to my gated community. Hey, everybody, the people at the gate love me. Hey, what's up, B-Tater? And these fools running around like we in the Twilight Zone. Hey, the white man, everything is racist. Racial everything. I put my life on it. He worked for a white man. Y'all want to bet me? What's his handle? Does his handle show up on here? I seen another video of this dude the other day. I wondered, did I say something? I got to look it up. This dude was on IG, and I saw a video of him, and it made me mad. In that video, I was going to make another video, but I said, let me not get this dude too much love. I'm going to find him, y'all. And when I find him, I'm going to find out his name, and I'm going to find out where he worked, and I'm not going to tell nobody because I don't want to dox the boy. But I guarantee you, these same black men that talk all this crazy stuff about white people on their social media, they be friends with white people, they work with white people, they employed by white people, they work for white corporations, but then they get on here and they act like white people are the problem. Y'all know people like that. All right, put me on the big screen. Y'all know people like that. Y'all know them. You thought you and Joseph were friends until you saw the halftime Super Bowl, and now he an activist. You thought y'all were friends until Donald Trump said something, and now all of a sudden you a racist now. Wait a minute. We've been cool for 30 years. I'm a racist now? You hardly see white people do that to black people. Black people are always doing it to white people. I'm gonna bring it up, but the reason that I put these things on my social media is because nobody's talking about how racist black people are. I honestly believe what black people are the most racist people in America. And they have hoodwinked culture to believe that black people can't be racist. But you just wait till I play this clip. You heard this guy. Y'all did this. Y'all did that. Meaning that every white person is the same. Most white people came here after slavery. Most of the immigrated white people that came to this country came after slavery. They had nothing to do with slavery. But y'all ancestors, every white person's the same? No, some white people are Irish. Some white people are Jewish. Some white people come from all over different places. Had nothing to do with this stuff. And I know it sounds crazy, but not every slave owner was the same. You know, people talk about Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee, they have no idea that, and I did research on this, that Robert E. Lee never really had slaves. He inherited his dad's slaves. Robert E. Lee never had slaves. It's just his dad was ill and he couldn't take over, so he had to inherit it. Now, what do you want Robert E. Lee to do? Oh, everybody free. Back then, that wasn't normal to do that. Slavery was normal. So what did he do? He took over his dad's plantation. And upon his father's death, his death declaration was to free his slaves. And so did Robert E. Lee's declaration, that when he died, all his slaves are freed. They also don't know Robert E. Lee went to Africa to help free slaves in Africa. So when you look at these two things, you have to go back and say, they weren't telling us something about history. How is Robert E. Lee owning slaves in America, yet helping slaves in Africa? That tells you that something that ain't what they telling us. That tells you that slavery was very vastly different depending on who owned slaves and what demographic you're talking about. Because ain't no way he hate black people and he think every black people is subjugated to slavery, yet he's in Africa helping free slaves. They don't want you to know that. That's probably why they want to take Robert E. Lee's statue down. Come on, put this clip up. I said on my social media, imagine if a white man said this. Now, do white people think this? I bet you there's white people that think like this. But a white man will never say this they do not have the permission to say something like this, or they'll get canceled and they'll be called a racist. But when you black, you can say stuff like this openly, endorsed. Roll it.
I don't think a black man should be with anybody other than a black woman. I think it's in my estimation. I don't abuse people because of it, but from my perspective, it's racial treason. If my ancestors decided that the best thing for a black man was a black woman and then produce my race, then that means if I respect them and what they've done for me to be here, I'm gonna do the same thing they did. I'm gonna go find me a black woman, produce a family, and have a future generation that looks like us.
Can y'all believe people still live? The homeboy Dashiki Brown still living 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Bro, Who cares, bro? We live in America, man. You find a person you love. I got it. That's racial treason. Like, the reason black people married black people, because in those days, you couldn't marry another person. I bet it's black women that wanted white women that wanted black men, whatever.